So today I have with me is Hassan. He is an architect that transitioned into UX design. We're going to talk about what made him decide to transition, and we're also going to talk about a little bit of crypto, NFT. And so Hassan, welcome to the channel. I'm so happy to have you today. So let's just hop straight into it.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So my first question for you, Hassan, is that what inspired you to get into tech from architect? I know some people that don't know much about UX and don't know the relation, they're probably like, wow, what a big, transition there and a pivot. So what was your initial reason for changing career?
There's multiple reasons. The main reason was architecture was first the career that I chose because I really, coming from, just a little bit backstory, I'm originally from Guinea, in West Africa. That's where I grew up. So I grew up like between Guinea and the US, and I kind of saw how beautiful America was every single time I came here. So that's what inspired me to become an architect. So unfortunately, the reality of the day-to-day jobs and the expectation that I had going to school was not, exactly the same. As an architect, most of the time you're just behind the desk, drafting all the time. So it wasn't about, I didn't get that creative experience that I wanted. So, and that kind of led me into that exploration phase of me trying to figure out, okay, I like this kind of career where I can do design, where I can do problem solving in general, but in a creative way. So that's kind of what I was exploring, different career paths. And I ended up finding UX design through crypto, actually, because I took a bit of a career break and I was doing some day trading. And then through that process, I kind of watched an interview by Carlson Wee, which is one of the first, one of the first founders, one of the first employees of Coinbase. And he talked about how UX was potentially the main downfall of crypto if we have bad UX. So I was like, oh, what is UX? And that got me into learning about UX. And then I was like, oh, this is a good transition because it's a design job. But at the same time, it allows me to be more involved and stuff like that. So that's kind of what led me into exploring that career path.
Well, that's great. And do you see any similarities between UX and architect? Because I remember we had talked a little bit about that. You was like, there's quite a few things that you have noticed that were like similar.
One thing is architecture.
Okay, I'm sorry. About architecture.
So the main difference, they're both jobs, design thinking pretty much. The main difference obviously is the medium when you build a house and when one is a web app, but the process overall is the same except for one thing, which is the user testing, right? So in UX design, there's something called user testing. That is the UX designers working with the end users. So let's say I'm designing, a fitness app. People who are actually going to use a fitness app, trying to understand what are they looking for in the fitness app, what things that would make the experience much better. So in order for us to get that information, because initially we start with assumptions and we talk to the users themselves who are actually going to be using this on a day-to-day basis to understand what it is that they are looking for. So we will ask them open-ended questions just to make sure that we are not, influencing their bias in any ways. So there's a lot of different ways we do that. But in architecture, we don't have that, right? Because architecture, when you make a design and then it's approved, then it goes through the process. When you start making the construction documents, that means the design is locked in, right? Your design will never get updated after that point, right? So for example, if you're in an apartment building, right, you get in, this is the same scenario. Let's say you're a fitness app user and you're a resident in a new apartment building. In an apartment building, when you get in, you can complain saying, oh, I don't like the courtyard. I don't like, like the railing that's being used. I don't like the facade, right? But you cannot, those things are never going to change anymore, right? Because when the design is done, it's done, right? But when it comes to the fitness app example, you can always tweak it. You can always change it. You can change the radius. You can change the colors. You can add features, X, Y.
We can say that the flow wasn't really seamless because the person probably felt like they didn't have more control over it. And that's when the research plays a part. Also, an architect is just, you get what you get. Yes, you just be like, I want a 2-bedroom, and then the layout is the layout, and that's that.
Yeah, pretty much. Like one is more of a static medium because you're dealing with physical environment, like, a building with a concrete and like structure, right? You don't have much flexibility to update. right? But with UX, we're dealing with a dynamic environment, right? I mean, we all know this, right? Every couple of months, get, hey, do you want to update your app, right? Because it's probably been researched, we get feedback or we found bugs, whatever, and we use that data that end users, people using the application, gave us to update. So I think that's kind of like the main difference is that one, architecture is a static environment you can't change because it's built. And the other one is a dynamic environment, right, where you can always update and change certain things to make it better. And based on the feedback of the users, based on time, based on competition, based on technology improving, right, you have so many things that makes it like an evolving product, right? Think about Google's website 5 years ago or 10 years ago compared to now, right? Or Facebook or Instagram has gone through what?
Facebook changes like crazy.
Yeah.
Like I don't even know how to navigate it right now. I feel like it's updated so much. Right. And if you take like a few months break, it's like...
It's different, right? But in Facebook or Instagram, they're not doing this at random. It's people telling them, hey, we like this. Or the business seeing a new opportunity because technology has allowed.
It has evolved.
Has evolved, right? So that's what makes digital products, at least to me, far more interesting because they're very dynamic.
And you're tweaking your mistakes.
Exactly. Because a lot of the time it's assumptions, right? Because a house, you also have limited use cases where you go in your apartment, you sleep, you watch TV. You don't really care, like, how thick the wall is or whatever, like, because it's a wall.
Yeah.
Maybe you can put your own treatment on top of it, right? But that's your own stuff, right? Versus like, in UX, you can change everything within the application, sometime within hours or a few days or a few weeks, right? So the one is just more dynamic, hard-coded, I guess, in real life. And the other one is just more dynamic, receptive to technology evolving, receptive to users telling them, hey, we like this thing better than this thing that you had, or hey, this thing is annoying to me, how can I change that, right?
And you know what's so funny, because like we're gonna go into the Google course, because when I first started the Google course, I noticed a lot of architecture folks were like joining the course, and that's why I was like, wow, I'm surprised they're here. I didn't understand the difference. I kind of like figured maybe there was a place for them to strive, probably.
It is. And the reason is because it's complexity. Just to summarize, what I mean by that is this. Going through the process of designing and building is far more challenging than designing a website, right? Because you're designing a building, you have to think about plumbing, electricity, you have to think about the flooring, you have to think about so many different components, and you have to coordinate so many different things in order for the building to come out accurate, right? So in the UX, although the development process, which is the part that engineering does, is complicated, but the UI and kind of understanding what needs to be done is not that hard compared to designing a building. And that's why it's such an attractive career to architects, because it's like it uses the same skill, because architects and UX designers, we are in the middle. Like we use both reason, we use both logic and creativity. Right, because you have to make things aesthetically pleasing, but you also have to make them extremely functional, right? So architects do that, I think, at a more complex level than UX designers. So I think that's the reason why, that transition is usually very attractive to architecture. And even when doing my interview, the person who was interviewing me used to be an architect before, right? And she told me, she's like, hey, this is going to be easier for you, right? Because this is architecture, and I know what it is to be a UX designer, and it's not. It's a lot more simpler compared to architecture. And as soon as I remember her, she's saying, "Oh my God, I have goosebumps." Because I'm like, "What do you mean?" She's like, "I used to be an architect, and this is such a great move for you because it's such."
You see how she
strived, right? And that made me increase my confidence. Like, oh, okay, I can actually do this.
I feel like a lot of people have this stigma towards like transitioners coming in to steal their jobs, but like you had hard skills and soft skills coming in.
Right.
But some people probably have a little bit of soft skills,
right?
And then they learn throughout the process and learn things. But you had both, which is like a win-win for you.
Which is true. I will have to make a small distinction that it wasn't seamless because although the overall thought process is the same, the details are different, right? Because when you're doing with UX, you have to learn different ways of executing ideas, right? What I mean by that is, if you're an architect, you're thinking about doors, you're thinking about hallways, you're thinking about floors and lighting, all these things. that doesn't apply to UX. What applies to UX is colors, fonts, typefaces, like, those type of like graphics, right? So although psychologically the process is the same, but the tools that you use to create obviously different, and the end product is different. So when I said it wasn't seamless, it's because I had to, that's why I took the Google Career course to kind of learn what are the fundamentals of the UX, what is a typeface, what are colors, what are this, what are that, right?
And research.
And doing research, right? And that, even research in general is broad, right? There's transferable skills, but kind of making it specific to UX, you have to learn how to research per UX designers because we don't use the same tools, right? So it was easier, I would say, compared to with somebody else who is coming from a career that is not a designer, for example, or somebody, who had no prior design experience. I would say it's a little bit easier, but you still have to learn all the different things about UX, like the little nuances that makes a good UX product, which is not the same. It's not a one-to-one comparison. Like a great building and a great website, you can tell they're both great, but you cannot compare them together because they're different.
So that actually leads to my next question, because my next question was like, how is Google a foundation for you to get into UX? And that's great because me and you actually went through this whole course. Well, towards the end, because I think I was already done when I figured out that you was taking the course at the time. Yeah. We kind of helped each other out. We'll hold each other accountable for things, especially when it came to portfolio reviews. I felt kind of harsh sometimes, but as now Hassan is working with like already in tech, you got to be open, constructive criticism, because it happens a lot, and not take things personal. So like, I'm glad that you had an open mind, because I think he had a lot of accessibility on his portfolio. And I was like, sir, like, wait till you get in. And then, because I look at it like this, when you have a portfolio, you should look at it from a student. And I just think about having a white blank slate. And like, yours was like, what, black with a little bit of lime green?
Yes.
At the time.
I am as rational as I love to think that I am. I'm also an esthetician, right? I love beauty, and I think beauty is a way to attract things. So I'm attracted to certain aesthetics, and I was trying to bring that aesthetic in UX. There's always like, should you use light mode or dark mode? Now, obviously, most applications have both light and dark mode. All of mine are dark mode because that's the aesthetic that is more appealing to. I mean, I'm not, over sell myself, but my graphics are amazing. Okay, I love graphics because I think beauty elevates a design, right? Not just about making things look pretty, but you can communicate details through graphics. Yeah. I have seen, web accessibility a lot more, and I obviously have a lot more experience in designing intuitive web products. So I'm making my own website as a UX exercise with the initial intent that I had with making it like, sexy and all that. But at the same time, making it a good UX project, meaning so you can make something beautiful and still make it functional. I don't think the two are opposites, but it takes practice to kind of get to that level of refinement.
But I think also like, it's not only us looking at our portfolio, we are product managers, and they probably don't understand much. So like, I just try to think of that open mind. And the reason why I tell people this is because of the fact that I come across a few portfolios and I have mentees, and I'm just like, you're still a student. Wait till you become an actual UX designer, and then, flex your muscle, because it's like, I got this company on here. I got American Express on here. I have this company.
That's true. I think it is though about finding a good balance, because a lot of companies also are attracted to personality. Right.
And then it depends also what you're looking for in the market. Like, right. If you're like into crypto, we're going to talk about crypto.
Oh, yeah, definitely. That's my baby. That's about that.
So like, next question, how did you utilize resources and immersing yourself into UX and UI? Because like, remember for me, I was like doing my own, I think we had talked about this. I was talking to a lot of people. Right. And I was talking to professionals. Right. I literally went and talked to maybe a handful of 20 people, because I was just talking. Right. But like, for someone like me, that came natural in a way. But like, let's say if you're not that type of person, what other resources did you use? Because I remember we did talk about YouTube.
Yes, that's a very, very, very good question. And before I answer the question directly, I want to preface with this. You have to understand your personality type. Understand what you're naturally drawn to. What you're saying, you are a natural networker. You like to talk to people, you like to reach out and stuff like that.
Introverted in a way.
Yeah, you're introverted, but you're also good at networking, right? Because you're always talking about, hey, reach out to this person, which is good, right? Because that's an area that you feel that you get the most value from. But me, for me, on the other side, I'm not really a big fan of networking like that. I like it to, be more like, hey, you like my skills, this is what I have to offer. Do we have mutual...
And plus it's intimidating,
Yeah, it's intimidating to a lot of people. So what I did, because you can talk to people in real world to learn, but we also have to accept that we live in a digital world and you can have tools that you can use. And my tool for immersion was YouTube. And what I did, because at the time I was doing delivery work and stuff like that, what I was learning, every single free time that I had, I closed my Instagram account, I closed every other distraction that I could possibly have. And I would just go on YouTube and find the best UX designers and just listen to every single thing they had to share. And that way you learn about the jargons, you learn about how they think, you learn about nuances, right? That's what makes the difference between an amateur and the nuances of the industry in which you cannot really get by just like taking one course or just talking, to a few people. You have to that's experience, but you can accelerate your experience by listening to people.
Yeah.
Right? Whether it's podcasts, but YouTube for me, I listened to it for like 3, 4, 5 months straight. And all I did was just watch YouTube videos. I probably watched 5, 6 hours a day of YouTube videos, all on UX. And as I did that, the first job interview that I did was my first job.
Now you are a UX designer, you came in as a senior designer, now you're promoted and you work remote. And his lifestyle is incredible. Like, I call him not hot boy, not like a hot boy, like anything like hot girl summer or anything like that, but...
You just said that because I like to travel.
I say hot boy because he's on nice trips and... Is it luxurious? He's gonna be like, what? But he's on nice trips and we follow each other on Instagram. So I'm like, oh, where you at? Our whole industry changing. I feel like it was so after COVID, oh yeah, this is important for the mental health that we have the least vacation in a lot of countries, Western countries. You go to Europe, they have the whole August off. You go to Italy, they're always on vacation and I just can't keep up. They have so many religious holidays that they don't really have to work as much. So when I look at it, when I see the benefit that way, I just want people to look at it holistically and not look at it like, okay, we're the lazy Gen Z. I'm not a Gen Z, but we're the lazy generation. But I feel like it really helps you to not have to feel like a zombie to wake up and get dressed and go to work. And
it's
anxiety of taking a train, living in New York City.
It's just a big misconception. My boss literally yelled at me about a month and a half ago because she caught me working after hours. I am a workaholic, right? I like to work. I enjoy working.
Because you love what you're doing.
I love what I'm doing. So it's but that doesn't mean I have to be in the box, physical environment to perform at my best. That's the argument that I make, right? And unfortunately, it's a lot of companies don't really see that value, and there's no data to prove that, remote work is less productive than other mediums and stuff, right? So for me, I value flexibility a lot. And for me, feeling trapped, boxed in, and not, if I want to do something, let me do it, right? Your goal is you to get a great product. Those two are not in conflict. I don't need to be in an office to perform at my best. The benefits of remote work. I will die for that, philosophy that working remote has great benefit for every single person, and there is no proven data that suggests otherwise. We're humans, like you said. In Europe, people don't work that much, and this is an American heavy culture, like a workaholic American culture, and it's the reason why we have issues. Yeah, but it's at the same time we have to, as a society, find the balance to, yes, we want to be productive, we want to make money, we want to improve companies, right? I like to see my company win. I like to see a product win, right? But at the same time, that does not have to come at my expense, right? So the two goals here are not, in conflict. And I'm sure there's a lot of people who can attest to the same thing.
Yeah. I also really love your pictures. I'm going to put some clips of him on vacation like the scenery, the water, Santorini.
It's relaxing. I can go on vacation or something new.
Yeah, I feel like it's a little bit of self-care. You know what I mean? Like when people go and get massages, I don't know how many times a week, when they have a lot of money. It's a sense of self-care because sometimes when you by the water and the ocean, it kind of helps with anxiety. Just the hearing the wave, looking at the sun. And New York can get pretty gray, especially this year. It's been very gray out here. So let's just hop into like where you at today. I know you talk about NFTs. You've been trying to get me into crypto. So let's talk about it because I know initially when we was doing even the portfolio reviews, he had the NFT icon.
EFP icon.
Yeah. So like, let's talk a little bit about NFT and what made you successful. Walk me through that journey, please.
So the journey was, it kind of came in tandem with my transition from architecture to UX. It was more about kind of me understand, like I'm always trying to find an edge, right? I think in life for me is like, I don't like being stagnant. I get bored pretty quickly. I like to be in an environment where I feel challenged. So after, leaving architecture, when I was kind of exploring different venues, I started day trading. And through day trading, I kind of stumbled on crypto. At first, we were like, oh, people are making money here. Like, what is going on? I'm interested. I want to find out. And then as I'm going through that process, I'm like, oh my God, this is a technology that's can change so many lives, especially me coming from Africa. I understand the need, like I understand the traditional banking system and how people in those type of countries don't trust it because, give you the example of Zimbabwe, when the economy started to fall down, everybody wanted to get the bank money from the bank. It happened in Zimbabwe, it happened in Venezuela, right? So banks, they're not like in the US, you can have Bank of America ATMs everywhere, right? It's not an issue that we think about that much. But in Africa or in developing countries, it's not the case. Banks are usually in big cities. 90% of people, or maybe I'm exaggerating, maybe 70% of the people don't use banks, right? There's a lot of fees, it's hard to get to and all these things. So when I heard about crypto and the ability of blockchain to create a public ledger that allows people to transact anywhere in the world and having custody of their own asset, I'm like, this is gold mine for developing countries. You know what I mean? So it's like, this is a way for us to decouple ourselves from, the traditional system, which is, banks and all these things. So anyway, that is kind of like the underlying technology got me excited. Obviously, financial prospect, I'm like, clearly this is going to be, if my thesis is right, which I'm pretty confident it is, blockchain technology is going to be a big part of the world that we live in. So I'm like, this is where I have to be. So that's kind of what led me into it as I'm researching different crypto projects, and that led me into NFTs towards the end of the 2022 bull market. And I started trading NFTs, understanding the use case. At first, every technology goes through, so just kind of to preface, I know this is very technical information, but history, I'm sure a lot of you have heard this saying.
History repeats itself? History
repeats itself, or it rhymes, right? Every couple of years, there's certain thing that happen that creates something big, right? Let's say, we can say started with electricity. Electricity created stuff. The first time when they created electricity was, we just want to turn things on, lights, so we don't use candles. But look at the world today. Everything that we use is based on electricity. Electricity kept going. Later on, somebody came about internet. So the internet created so many products. Everything that we have in our phones today was because of the internet. But when it was first created, it wasn't like, we didn't know we were going to use the internet for all these things. It was just to send emails. Can you believe it or not? That was the first main purpose of the internet, was to be able to...
How did me for AOL?
God knows. It was some kind of military, it was used by the military first, actually, to send some, information.
Start something.
Yeah, it's like it was, internet, I think, if I'm correct on this, was created by the military to send information across the world, So if the first use case of the internet was to send emails. So from that use case, so many different things happened that we have. Now we have website, we have Facebook, Instagram. When the internet was created, we didn't think that the internet was going to give us all these. You know what I'm saying? I was talking about that in the context of research the dot-com bubble. Everything that's happening in crypto right now is a scam. People are just here to make money. People are kind of creating all kind of crazy companies, which is partially true. But it happens at the beginning of every new technology that we end up having mass adoption with. So in the 1990s to the 2000s, Amazon, eBay, Yahoo, AOL, all of those companies were just creating different companies, and maybe there were hundreds of thousands of companies that were created. But out of those, we have big giants companies that we have today: Google, Facebook, Instagram, right? So it's the same thing that's happening right now through crypto. A lot of projects, 90% of them will probably fail, but there's going to be a few of them that's going to emerge, and it's going to completely change the way we see the world.
Well, thank you for that information, because I didn't even know the internet was only for the military at the time. So let's talk about your success. Let's talk about the happy stuff. Like, I mean, I'm not saying that wasn't happy, but that was historic. Had a little bit of history there. Sure. But let's talk about the money.
I mean, well,
you was very successful. I heard, okay, listen, first of all, Hassan is my cousin. So he was the rich cousin I heard in town.
I was not that rich, okay? I don't consider myself rich yet, but it's my goal, one of them. But my success with trading crypto and NFT was around 2020, you know, that's when I stumbled on NFTs and I started trading NFTs, and I made a lot of money. So that from 2022-ish, I wasn't really working. My income was really trading. But obviously after that came a gruesome bear market. So if you're in crypto, you already know this. It goes up a lot, creates a bubble, the bubble explodes, 90% of the money is gone, right? So luckily I had taken some profits out, and that profit lasted me for a while until I, got my job, and I kind of had some odd jobs here and there. So I became pretty wealthy for some time, and then I lost part of the money, and then I got a job, right? So it's like, it's a risky environment, right? But everything, just trading NFTs or crypto, whatever, it's a game. You have to understand the rules.
And he was very successful with it. So
I didn't make a lot of money to the point where I didn't need a job for a year and a half. So that was definitely good. But I definitely think there's a lot more to come from the industry, for sure.
So Hassan is starting YouTube, and I will link that in the description. And it's all about crypto. And I know he's kind of getting excited over here. I know he knows a lot about crypto.
Yeah.
I have a question. Is crypto tech? Because people's perception of crypto is like, what, stock market, gambling, finance. Can it be tech? Because
that is an excellent question. And cryptocurrency is a derivative of the blockchain. So the industry is called blockchain industry. So the blockchain is the underlying technology, but it has a lot of ties into financial. So it is technically a derivative of fintech, part of crypto, but it's definitely tech. So there's a straight correlation between the tech stocks and how cryptocurrencies usually trade up and down. So it's the derivative of tech, but it's very niche. Kind of thinking about AI in tech. AI is still tech, but it's kind of its own bubble, right? And crypto is also tech, but it's kind of its own thing. But it's definitely a derivative of tech.
And why do you think people look at crypto to make money and not like in utility?
Because it is both, but the money part obviously is the most exciting part, because most people honestly don't want to build crypto companies. They don't want to create anything, right? They just want to make money. So that's the reason why, like, just the same way most people invest into retirement into Apple or, Google or whatever, not understanding what Google does to a certain extent. They just know, hey, my financial advisor tells me if I buy Google in 10 years, I can make $20,000 more than I have now, whatever. Right? So that's kind of the same idea, that people are attracted to crypto because of the financial incentives, but that doesn't neglect the underlying technology that is pushing or creating that value, because value is created from need, right? If people need something, then that, for to be at least sustainable over a long period of time, that needs to be filled, right? And so the crypto cannot keep growing indefinitely if they're not actually solving something. Google is not the biggest company in the world just because they're pretty and whatever. It's because they made our lives easier, right? Same thing with Apple or Amazon, right? Because they make our lives easier. So the general philosophy, the general concept here is, if something creates value for people in terms of, this is going to make my life easier, it's going to allow me to transfer money around the world without having to go through these hoops at the banks, or it's going to allow me to, make transaction easier, whatever the use case is, then that's the value it creates. The derivative of the value is the financial incentive, right? Just like if you work on yourself, you create a nice portfolio, you be a good UX designer, like in our case, you're most likely to get a better job. So it's the same thing. You create a need, you try to solve a problem, and that needs or that you solving that problem, filling that void will create the financial incentive. But that's why people are attracted to crypto. To summarize, they see the money, 5x, 6 here and there. It's kind of crazy, honestly.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you for all of this, Jam. I could tell that you're so passionate and,
I say too much, maybe. I am very passionate about it.
I see that you're so passionate, and I can see the drive for wanting to teach people about this.
Yeah.
So you guys, please check out his YouTube. I'm going to definitely put it in the description. Is it out yet?
It's not out yet. It's a project that I'm working on. So I think in the next 2 months, I will, maybe a bit less, I will launch it. Because the goal for me is to kind of formalize it, because my conviction is so high. I don't want it to be like, this is my thing. I wanted this to be like, a thing that I can bring value to the world, right? If I have a high conviction, first, it's a reinforcing that, hey, this guy's actually not joking. He believes what he's talking about. And it's also a way for me to increase my own knowledge. That's kind of the selfish part, where it's like, it's going to force me to learn and understand it to a level that I can explain it to you guys in a simple manner, right? So it's going to allow me to really understand the industry and areas I want to focus on. But it's also an opportunity that I especially for Africa and developing world, this is, I believe, our ticket to creating an economy that is sustainable for us, right? The US, China, all of that understand the importance of leveraging technology to improve their lives and improve their financial positioning. So I think this is an opportunity for us to do that in a fair, level playing ground, right? Because crypto is a decentralized environment. Your ownership, your influence depends on how you position in that. It has nothing to do with another country or anything like that. So there's not, hey, I'm in Africa, I can't do this. That excuse literally goes out of the window, right? So that's kind of why I really want to teach that and kind of share that value that I believe is going to bring. And it's going to help in so many aspects of our economy, in terms of like alleviating corruption, in terms of making transferring money around the country is very easy and seamless, in terms of creating technologies that, will benefit actual people on a day-to-day level, not just the financial incentive, which is great, trust me, if you get in the right time, which is great. But, we're talking about changing lives here, and we're trying to think about changing how we perceive the world. And I think that's what crypto is really for, technology for the masses.
Well, thank you so much. And I hope you guys learn a lot about UX, learn a lot about crypto. I'm glad that this is an introduction to something new that you are also passionate about. Definitely find passion outside of work. And well, work is also passion too. Like for us, like for me, I feel like it don't feel like work, because I just like what I'm doing.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah. So
I'm a big proponent in finding what you love doing and finding ways to make money out of that, because that's when you're going to be the most happy, you're going to have the less amount of stress, and you're going to perform at your best, right? If you're forced to do something, it's always going to be harder.
Yes, that is true. So thank you guys for watching, and stay tuned for my next interview.